The coffee cup tilted at exactly the wrong angle just as Ryan Davis looked up, and suddenly, his entire world turned hot, dark, and humiliatingly wet. "Oh my God." The voice was feminine, horrified, and belonged to someone whose designer heels probably cost more than his monthly rent. "I am so sorry." Ryan sat frozen, the lukewarm coffee soaking through his only interview shirt, the one he'd carefully ironed that morning while his 6-year-old daughter Emma ate cereal and chatted about her upcoming school field trip. The shirt he'd planned to wear to 3 different job interviews this week, rotating it carefully between washings to make it last. "Sir, I'm terribly sorry. Please let me." The woman was already grabbing napkins from the dispenser, her perfectly manicured hands moving in a flutter of panic. Ryan finally looked up at her, really looked, and felt his breath catch despite the coffee disaster. She was stunning. Not in a magazine-perfect way, but in a real way that hit him somewhere in his chest. Dark brown hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of storm clouds, and an expression of genuine distress that made her seem almost vulnerable despite the $1,000 suit she was wearing. "It's okay," Ryan managed, accepting the wad of napkins she thrust at him. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Accidents happen." "No, it's not okay. I wasn't watching where I was going, I was on my phone, and She stopped, pressing her lips together as if forcing herself to slow down. "Please, let me pay for the dry cleaning. Or better yet, let me replace the shirt entirely." Ryan dabbed uselessly at his chest, already feeling the stickiness settling into the fabric. "Really, it's fine. I can wash it." "That's clearly a professional shirt, and I've just ruined it right before what I'm guessing is a business meeting, based on the resume I saw you reviewing." She gestured at the table where his papers were thankfully coffee-free. "Please, I insist on making this right." Something in her tone, the genuine remorse mixed with determination, made Ryan look at her again. Up close, he could see the faint shadows under her eyes, the tension in her jaw, the way her hands trembled slightly as she gathered more napkins. She looked exhausted beneath the polish. "I appreciate it," he said, managing a small smile. "But honestly, it's just coffee. I've dealt with worse. I have a 6-year-old daughter this morning. She sneezed orange juice across the kitchen." The woman's expression softened, and she surprised him by laughing. It was a real laugh, not polite or practiced, and it transformed her face completely. "I can only imagine. Still, orange juice from a child is very different from a grown woman who should know better plowing into you like a linebacker." "A very small, well-dressed linebacker," Ryan offered, and was rewarded with another genuine smile. "I'm Beatrice Collins," she said, extending her hand, "and I really would like to make this right. Please, let me at least buy you another coffee and whatever you were eating." Ryan hesitated. He'd budgeted exactly $5 for this cafe visit, a small coffee and a muffin, while he reviewed his resume one more time before his interview across town. Taking anything from this woman, who clearly lived in a different financial stratosphere, felt wrong somehow. But there was something in her eyes, a pleading quality that suggested this mattered to her more than just politeness. "Ryan Davis," he said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident, "and I was just having coffee. Black, medium, nothing to eat." "Already ate," he lied smoothly, thinking of the Pop-Tart he'd given Emma, saving the last egg for her breakfast. Beatrice studied him for a moment, and Ryan had the uncomfortable feeling she could see right through him. But she didn't push. "Well then, let me get you that coffee and at least something for the inconvenience." "Please sit. I'll be right back." Before he could protest, she was heading to the counter, and Ryan sank back into his chair, very aware of the wet patch spreading across his torso. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. The interview was in 45 minutes, a 15-minute bus ride away. He could probably make it home to change, but that would mean missing the interview entirely. He'd have to go as is and hope they'd understand. Beatrice returned carrying a tray laden with far more than he'd expected. 2 large coffees, several pastries, a sandwich, and what looked like a fruit cup. "I didn't know what you'd like," she said, setting it down, "so I got options." "This is way too much," Ryan protested. "Then take some home to your daughter." Beatrice sat down across from him, uninvited but somehow not unwelcome. "Please, it makes me feel less terrible about assault by caffeine." Ryan found himself smiling despite everything. Assault by caffeine, that's a new one. "I'm considering trademarking it." She wrapped her hands around her own coffee cup, and Ryan noticed they were shaking slightly. "Rough morning, you could say that." She paused, seeming to consider how much to share with a stranger. "I just came from a board meeting that went very differently than I'd planned. I was distracted, upset, and not paying attention to my surroundings. That's not an excuse, just context." "Board meeting?" Ryan took a sip of the coffee, savoring it. When was the last time he'd had a large instead of a small? "I run a company." "Well, I own it, technically, but I'm very involved in the operations." Beatrice looked down at her cup. "Or I was. Today the board informed me they think I'm taking the company in the wrong direction. They want me to step back, focus on finances and investor relations, let someone else handle the vision side of things." Ryan heard the hurt beneath her professional tone. "And you don't agree?" "It's my company. I built it from nothing." "Well, not nothing. I had advantages, family money, connections. But the idea was mine, the execution was mine, and every major decision for the last 8 years has been mine." She looked up, and Ryan saw fire in those gray eyes. "And they want to sideline me because I care more about sustainable practices than quarterly profits." "What kind of company?" "Tech. Specifically, sustainable technology solutions for businesses. We help companies reduce their carbon footprint while actually saving money in the long run." "But some of our investors are getting impatient. They want faster returns, bigger growth, even if it means compromising our core mission." Beatrice shook her head. "Sorry, you don't need to hear all this. I don't usually dump my problems on strangers I've just assaulted with coffee." "It's okay," Ryan said, and meant it. There was something refreshing about her directness, the way she seemed to be talking to him like a real person rather than seeing just his worn shoes and coffee-stained shirt. "For what it's worth, sticking to your principles sounds like the right call, even if it's the harder one." "What about you?" Beatrice asked, nodding toward his resume. "Job interview," Ryan nodded, trying not to think about how he probably looked. "Yeah, accounting position at a firm downtown. It's not glamorous, but it's steady, and the hours would let me be home for dinner with my daughter most nights." "You're an accountant." "Was. I worked for Morrison and Associates for 6 years, but they downsized 8 months ago, and I've been freelancing since. It pays the bills, mostly, but it's unpredictable, and I'd like something more stable for Emma's sake." Beatrice leaned forward slightly. "Morrison and Associates. They're a good firm. You must be talented if they kept you through 6 years of this economy." Ryan shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I'm decent with numbers. Always have been. Decent enough that losing you in a downsize was probably a mistake on their part," Beatrice said. Then, as if making a decision, she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "Look, I know this is forward, and you don't know me from anyone, but my company could use a good accountant. Our current one is excellent but overwhelmed, and we've been talking about bringing on someone else. If you're interested, send me your resume. No promises, but I'd be happy to look at it." Ryan stared at the card, heavy cream-colored stock with embossed lettering. "Beatrice Collins, CEO, Evergreen Technologies." "I couldn't, why not?" "Because you just spilled coffee on me. It feels like a pity offer." Beatrice's expression sharpened. "Mr. Davis, I didn't build a successful company by making pity offers. I spilled coffee on you, yes, and I feel bad about that. But offering you an interview for a position we genuinely need to fill is a separate thing. You clearly have experience, you need a job, we need an accountant." "That's not pity, that's networking. Weird networking, admittedly, but still." Ryan looked at the card, then at her face. She meant it. He could see that clearly. This wasn't charity despite the circumstances. Okay, he said slowly. Thank you, I'll send you my resume. Good. Beatrice smiled, and Ryan noticed how it changed her whole face, softening the sharp edges of stress and exhaustion. Now, about that shirt. There's a men's clothing store 2 blocks from here. I'm going to give you money to replace it. No, before you argue, think practically. You have an interview soon, right? You can't go like that. Let me fix the problem I created. Please. Ryan wanted to argue more, but she was right. He couldn't show up to an interview looking like he'd been in a coffee explosion, and pride wouldn't pay Emma's school expenses or keep the lights on. A shirt, he said firmly. That's it, nothing fancy. Beatrice pulled out her wallet and handed him several bills. Ryan looked down and felt his throat tighten. This is way too much for a shirt. Then get 2 shirts, or 1 shirt and pocket the rest. I'm not asking for a receipt. She stood up, gathering her things. I really do need to get going, but please send me that resume, and good luck with your interview. She was gone before Ryan could formulate a response, leaving him sitting in a coffee shop with more money than he'd held in months, and the strangest feeling that his life had just shifted somehow. He made it to the interview on time, wearing a new shirt that actually fit properly, and the interview went well. The hiring manager was sympathetic about the coffee incident when Ryan explained his slightly damp hair, and even laughed at his self-deprecating retelling. They said they'd call within a week. That evening, after Emma was in bed, her room decorated with the pastries Beatrice had insisted he take home. My daughter will lose her mind over these fancy cookies, he'd said, and Beatrice's smile had been worth the admission. Ryan sat at his second-hand laptop and pulled up his resume. He stared at Beatrice Collins' business card for a long time before he finally attached the document and hit send. 3 days later, his phone rang from an unknown number. Mr. Davis, this is Beatrice Collins. I reviewed your resume, and I'd like to bring you in for a formal interview. Are you available Friday at 10? Ryan's heart jumped. Yes, absolutely. Excellent. I'm emailing you the address now, and Mr. Davis, come prepared to talk about your experience with cost-benefit analysis and sustainability metrics. Sustainability metrics. If you're going to work for a green tech company, you need to understand the field. I'm not expecting expertise, just willingness to learn. She paused. See you Friday. The call ended, and Ryan sat staring at his phone, wondering what he'd just gotten himself into. Friday morning, he dropped Emma off at school early, enduring her protests about missing extra playground time before the bell. I have a really important meeting, sweetheart, he told her, crouching down to her level. But if it goes well, maybe we can celebrate this weekend. How about the Science Museum? Emma's eyes went wide. Really? With the dinosaurs? With all the dinosaurs you can handle. She threw her arms around his neck, and Ryan held her tight for a moment, breathing in her kid's shampoo smell and thinking about how much he wanted to give her more. Not just museums on special occasions, but stability, security, maybe even some of the things her classmates took for granted. Evergreen Technologies was housed in a modern building with solar panels on the roof and a vertical garden covering one wall. Ryan walked through glass doors into a lobby that managed to feel both professional and welcoming, with living plants everywhere and natural light streaming through skylights. The receptionist smiled at him. Mr. Davis, Miss Collins is expecting you. 4th floor, take a right off the elevator. Her office is at the end of the hall. The office was smaller than he'd expected for a CEO, but it had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and was filled with plants, books, and what looked like prototypes of various devices. Beatrice stood as he entered, and Ryan was struck again by how striking she was, this time in dark slacks and a deep green blouse that brought out the color of her eyes. Mr. Davis, thank you for coming. She shook his hand, and her grip was just as firm as he remembered. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Ryan couldn't help but smile. Maybe skip the coffee this time. Beatrice laughed, a genuine sound that made her seem younger, less like an intimidating CEO and more like the flustered woman who'd crashed into him. Fair enough. Water? I'm fine, thank you. The interview was unlike any Ryan had experienced. Beatrice asked the standard questions about his experience and skills, but she also asked about his values, his thoughts on corporate responsibility, and what he wanted beyond just a paycheck. She showed him the company's books, an unusual move in a first interview, and asked for his honest assessment. Ryan studied the numbers, his mind automatically finding patterns and possibilities. You're profitable, but barely. Your operating costs are higher than industry standard, probably because of the sustainable practices. But your client retention rate is exceptional, and your growth trajectory is steady if not explosive. The problem is your investors want explosive. Exactly. Beatrice leaned back in her chair. So what would you do? Find different investors, ones who align with your mission, or go private if possible, though that's risky. Ryan traced a line on the spreadsheet. The numbers show that businesses that use your services save money within 18 months. That's your selling point. You're not asking them to sacrifice profit for principles, you're showing them they can have both. Market that better, and you'll grow without compromising. Beatrice was quiet for a moment, studying him with an intensity that made Ryan's skin warm. You got all that from a 10-minute review of our financials. Numbers tell stories if you know how to read them. When can you start? Ryan blinked. I'm sorry. The job is yours if you want it. Salary is $80,000 to start, full benefits, 3 weeks vacation. We're small enough that you'd be doing a bit of everything: payroll, accounts, financial planning, investor relations. It won't be boring. Beatrice smiled. And fair warning, I'm demanding to work for. I care a lot about this company, maybe too much, and I expect the people around me to care too. But I also believe in work-life balance. If you need to leave at 3 to pick up your daughter, that's fine. If you need to work from home when she's sick, that's fine. Results matter more than face time. $80,000. Ryan's last job had paid $65,000, and that had been comfortable before the divorce and the increased cost of everything. $80,000 would mean security, room to breathe, maybe even saving for Emma's college fund. I want it, he said. Definitely. But I should mention the other company. They're supposed to call with their decision this week. Then I hope they reject you, selfishly speaking. Beatrice's eyes sparkled with humor, but if they make an offer, take 24 hours to decide. Compare not just salary but culture, growth potential, values. Then choose what's right for you and your daughter. That's very fair of you. I told you I don't do pity. I want you here because you're good, not because you felt obligated. She stood, extending her hand again. Either way, thank you for coming in. It's been illuminating. Ryan shook her hand, holding it perhaps a moment longer than strictly professional. Thank you for the opportunity, for seeing past the coffee-stained shirt. For what it's worth, you wear crisis well. Beatrice walked him to the door. I hope to hear from you soon, Mr. Davis. The other company called Monday with an offer. $68,000, standard benefits, rigid 9 to 5 hours. It was good, solid, everything he'd thought he wanted. Ryan called Beatrice that evening. I'd like to accept your offer if it's still open. He could hear the smile in her voice. It absolutely is. Welcome to Evergreen, Ryan. Can you start Monday? His first week was overwhelming in the best possible way. The company was small, only 30 employees, but they were passionate and dedicated. Beatrice had been right about the workload. He was handling everything from processing payroll to analyzing potential investments to sitting in on meetings about new product development. And Beatrice herself was unlike any boss he'd ever had. She was demanding, yes, but also encouraging. When he suggested a new approach to their quarterly reporting that would better highlight their long-term value to investors, she not only listened, but implemented it immediately, giving him full credit in the next board meeting. She was also, he couldn't help but notice, around a lot. Not in a micromanaging way, but in a collaborative one. She'd stop by his office to get his read on potential new clients, to brainstorm about financial strategies, or sometimes just to bring him coffee and chat about her weekend. How was the science museum? She asked one Monday morning, setting a cup on his desk. Ryan looked up, surprised. How did you know? You mentioned it might happen if the interview went well. I figured you'd celebrate. She leaned against his doorframe, casual in a way that seemed at odds with her CEO title. Did Emma enjoy it? She didn't stop talking about the T-Rex skeleton for the entire weekend. Pretty sure she's decided to be a paleontologist now. Ryan smiled at the memory. Last week she wanted to be an astronaut, so we'll see how long this one lasts. She sounds wonderful. She's the best thing I ever did. The words came out more intense than he'd intended, but they were true. Everything else in my life might be a mess, but I got Emma right. Beatrice's expression softened. That's how it should be. Kids knowing they're loved and valued, that's what matters most. Do you have any? Kids, I mean. Ryan immediately regretted the personal question. Sorry, that's none of my business. No, it's okay. And no, I don't. I've been so focused on building this company that I never really made room for much else. My last relationship ended 2 years ago because he, quite reasonably, pointed out that I was married to my work. She looked down at her own coffee cup. Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice, prioritizing career over personal life. But then I think about what we're accomplishing here, the positive impact we're having, and it feels worth it. For what it's worth, this place couldn't run without you. The way everyone talks about you, the respect they have, that's rare. Thank you. Beatrice met his eyes, and something passed between them, a moment of understanding that felt significant in a way Ryan couldn't quite name. I should let you get back to work, but Ryan, I'm glad you're here. She left before he could respond, and Ryan sat staring at his computer screen, trying to figure out why his heart was beating faster than normal. The realization crept up on him slowly over the next few weeks. The way he looked forward to Beatrice's morning coffee deliveries. The way his day felt brighter when she smiled at him. The way he found himself noticing little things, how she twisted her hair when she was thinking hard, how she always kicked off her heels under the conference table during long meetings, how her laugh was different when it was genuine versus polite. He had a crush on his boss. His billionaire boss who was way out of his league and who saw him as a good employee and nothing more. It was ridiculous, impossible, and absolutely not something he could act on. You seem distracted lately, his sister Caroline said one evening when she'd come over to watch Emma while he worked late. Everything okay? Fine, just adjusting to the new job. Caroline gave him a knowing look. She'd always been able to read him too well. Or adjusting to having a gorgeous boss? Caroline, I looked up the company, Ryan. I saw her picture. She's stunning, and from what you've told me, she's also brilliant and kind and treats you well. It's okay to notice that. She's my boss, and she's way out of my league. And I have Emma to think about. Emma isn't a reason not to date. She's 6, not 16. She'd probably love having more people in her life who care about her. Caroline softened. Look, I'm not saying you should do anything inappropriate. But don't use our daughter as an excuse to keep your heart locked away forever. Rachel's been gone for 3 years. We're divorced, not dead. She might as well be, given that she moved to California and sees Emma once a year if we're lucky. Caroline's voice was sharp. Rachel was a sore subject for everyone. I'm just saying, you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to want things for yourself, not just for Emma. Ryan knew she was right, but it didn't make the situation any less complicated. 2 months into his tenure at Evergreen, the company landed its biggest client, yet a major manufacturing corporation looking to overhaul its energy systems. It was exactly the kind of deal they needed to prove to investors that sustainable practices could be profitable at scale. It was also going to require someone to be on site at the client's facility for 3 days, analyzing their current systems and costs. I'd like you to come with me, Beatrice said, standing in Ryan's office doorway. I need someone who can assess the financial implications in real time, and you're the best person for that. Ryan's mind immediately went to Emma. When? Next Tuesday through Thursday. I know it's short notice, and if the child care is an issue, my sister can take her for a few days. She's been offering to have Emma for a sleepover anyway. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. It's not an imposition, it's my job. Ryan smiled. Besides, this is a huge opportunity for the company. I want to be part of it. The client was based in Portland, a short flight away. Ryan had never traveled for business before, and there was something surreal about sitting in a plane next to Beatrice, reviewing documents and strategies while hurtling through the air. Nervous? She asked, glancing over at him. About the meeting or the flying? Either, both. A little of both, honestly. Ryan looked out the window at the clouds. I want to do a good job for you. This deal could change everything for Evergreen. It could, but Ryan, you're already doing a good job. I trust you, or I wouldn't have brought you along. Beatrice's hand brushed his arm, a brief touch that probably meant nothing but sent electricity through his skin. Try to relax. We're going to be great. The meetings were intense, hours of presentations and negotiations and analysis, but Beatrice was right, they were great together. She handled the vision and technology aspects, while Ryan broke down the costs and savings in terms that made the client's CFO light up with interest. You two make quite a team, the client's CEO said over dinner that first night. How long have you been working together? Just a couple of months, Beatrice said. But Ryan has been an incredible asset. He sees patterns and possibilities that most accountants miss. Ryan felt his face warm at the praise. I just try to look at the bigger picture, not just the immediate numbers. That night, back at the hotel, Ryan couldn't sleep. He was keyed up from the day, from being so close to Beatrice for hours, from the way she'd looked at him when he'd successfully fielded a difficult question about long-term ROI projections. He was standing on his room's small balcony, looking out at the city lights, when he heard the sliding door next to his open. Couldn't sleep either. Beatrice stepped onto her own balcony, separated from his by only a small divider. She'd changed out of her business attire into yoga pants and a soft sweater, her hair down around her shoulders. Ryan had never seen her look so casual, so approachable. Too much coffee, I think, he smiled. And excitement, today went really well. It did. Thanks in large part to you. Beatrice leaned on her railing, close enough that Ryan could smell her perfume, something subtle and clean. You impressed them. You impressed me, though that's getting to be a habit. I'm just doing my job. No, you're exceeding expectations at every turn. You care about this company, about what we're trying to accomplish. That matters to me. She paused, seemed to gather courage. You matter to me. Ryan's heart stopped. Beatrice, I know this is complicated. I'm your boss, and there are professional boundaries, and you have your daughter to think about. But I'd be lying if I said I hadn't noticed you, hadn't looked forward to our conversations, hadn't wished things were different. She looked at him, her gray eyes reflecting the city lights. Tell me I'm alone in feeling this. Ryan could have lied, should have lied, probably. But looking at her, vulnerable and honest and so beautiful it made his chest ache, he couldn't. You're not alone, he said quietly. I've been trying to ignore it, trying to tell myself it's just gratitude or admiration or anything else. But it's not. I think about you constantly. I look for excuses to come to your office. I notice everything about you, and I have no right to any of it. Why don't you have the right? Because you're Beatrice Collins, CEO, billionaire, brilliant and accomplished, and I'm just a divorced dad trying to keep his head above water. Beatrice made a frustrated sound. Ryan, do you know how many men I've met who only see my money or my company? Who want to be with me because of what I represent, not who I am. She leaned closer over the divider. You've never treated me like that. You argue with me about financial strategies. You bring me coffee when you think I look tired. You told me about your daughter's dinosaur obsession without any self-consciousness about being a single parent. You see me as a person, not a prize. You are a person, An amazing person who's also intimidating as hell. Ryan found himself moving closer to, drawn by her honesty. But Emma is the most important thing in your life, as she should be. I'm not asking you to change that. I'm not asking you for anything, really. I just needed to be honest about what I'm feeling. Beatrice's voice dropped. But if you felt the same, if you wanted to see where this could go, I'd like that. We'd have to be careful, thoughtful about how we navigate the professional aspects, but I think it could be worth it. Ryan thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. The power dynamic, the risk to his job if things went wrong, the complexity of introducing someone into Emma's life. He thought about how his sister had told him he was allowed to be happy. Mostly, he thought about how he felt when he looked at Beatrice and how much he wanted to close the distance between them. I'd like that too, he said. But we do this slowly. Carefully. Emma's been through enough upheaval with the divorce. I need to know this is real before I bring her into it. Absolutely. We take our time, figure out what this is between us. No pressure, no rushing. Beatrice smiled, soft and genuine. Just two people getting to know each other. Two people who work together and are standing on separate balconies having a very important conversation. Beatrice laughed. We could remedy the separate balconies part. My room has actual seating. Ryan's pulse jumped. Is that a good idea? Probably not. But I'd really like to keep talking to you and my neck is getting sore from this angle. She pushed away from the railing. Come over. We'll order room service and talk. Nothing more, I promise. Ryan hesitated only a moment before nodding. 5 minutes later, he was knocking on her door, and then he was inside her room, which was identical to his, but felt entirely different because Beatrice was in it. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, deliberately keeping space between them, and talked for hours. About their childhoods, their dreams, their mistakes and regrets. Beatrice told him about growing up with wealth but emotionally distant parents, about building her company as a way to prove she was more than just a trust fund. Ryan told her about marrying young because Rachel was pregnant, about trying to make a relationship work for Emma's sake, about the relief and guilt he'd felt when Rachel left. Does Emma ask about her mother? Beatrice asked gently. Sometimes. Less than she used to. Rachel sends presents on birthdays and Christmas, calls once a month maybe. Emma knows her mother loves her, but she also knows I'm the one who's here. Ryan's jaw tightened. I try not to be bitter about it, but it's hard. Emma deserves better. Emma has better. She has you. Beatrice shifted slightly closer. Everything you've told me about her, the way your whole face lights up when you talk about her, that's what parenting should look like. Love and presence and prioritizing her needs. The financial circumstances don't matter nearly as much as that. Try telling that to the school that wants payment for her field trips, or the doctor who needs payment for her checkups. I didn't mean money doesn't matter at all. I just meant it's not the most important thing. Emma's lucky to have you. Ryan looked at Beatrice, at the sincerity in her expression, and felt something loosen in his chest. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. She reached out, hesitating briefly before taking his hand. Her fingers were cool and smooth, and the contact sent warmth radiating up his arm. Ryan, I need you to understand something. I'm not interested in you despite your circumstances. I'm interested in you because of who you are: a dedicated father, a talented professional, a kind person who treats everyone with respect. The fact that you're also incredibly handsome doesn't hurt, but it's not the main thing. Ryan's breath caught. You think I'm handsome? Extremely. Have you looked in a mirror? Beatrice's smile turned slightly mischievous. The first time you walked into my office for the interview, I had to remind myself to focus on your qualifications and not your eyes. Or your arms. You have very nice arms. Ryan laughed, a surprised and delighted sound. My arms? I have a thing for forearms, apparently. Especially when rolling up shirt sleeves is involved. She squeezed his hand. But truly, it's more than physical. I like how you think, how you challenge me, how safe I feel around you. You make me want to be better, not just professionally but personally. You make me brave, Ryan admitted. You make me think maybe I deserve good things, not just for Emma but for myself too. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands intertwined, before Beatrice spoke again. We should probably sleep. Tomorrow's going to be another long day. Ryan knew she was right, but he was reluctant to leave the bubble they'd created here, away from real life and its complications. Still, he stood, pulling her up with him. "Thank you," he said, "for being honest tonight, for taking the risk. Thank you for not running away screaming." Beatrice walked him to the door, and they stood there awkwardly for a moment, neither quite sure how to end the evening. Finally, Ryan leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to her cheek. "Good night, Beatrice." Her hand came up to touch where he'd kissed. "Good night, Ryan." The next day's meetings were equally successful, and by the time they boarded the plane home Thursday evening, they had a signed contract that would triple Evergreen's revenue over the next 2 years. "We did it," Beatrice said, holding up her champagne glass. The flight attendant had provided small bottles to celebrate. To new partnerships," Ryan echoed, clinking his plastic cup against hers and trying not to read too much into the way she held his gaze. They'd been professional all day, carefully maintaining appropriate boundaries in front of the client. But now, flying home with this victory behind them, Ryan could feel the tension between them, the awareness of what they'd acknowledged to each other. "When can I see you again?" Beatrice asked quietly. "Outside of work, I mean. I have Emma this weekend. My sister's probably hit her limit after 3 days." Ryan hesitated. "But maybe next week. Dinner, I'd like that. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk. I know a place." "Nothing fancy, but the food's good and it's never too crowded." Ryan smiled. "Fair warning, it's nowhere near the kind of places you probably usually go." "Ryan, I eat takeout at my desk most nights. I'm not nearly as glamorous as you think I am." Beatrice's expression turned serious. "I don't need fancy, I just need genuine. Can you promise me that, whatever this becomes, we're honest with each other?" "I can promise that." Their first official date was the following Wednesday. Ryan spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to decide what to wear, finally settling on dark jeans and a button-down shirt that Emma declared, "Very handsome, Daddy." "Are you going on a date?" she asked, watching him check his appearance in the mirror for the 3rd time. Ryan froze. He and Emma had never really discussed the possibility of him dating. "Would that bother you if I was?" Emma considered this seriously, her little face scrunched up in thought. "Is it someone nice?" "Very nice. She's kind and smart and funny." "Does she like dinosaurs?" Ryan laughed. "I don't know, but I can find out." "Okay then, you should go on a date, but you have to tell me all about her if it's serious." Emma paused. "That's what Aunt Caroline says. She says if you find someone serious, we get to meet them and decide if we like them." "That's exactly right." "And I promise, if things get serious, you'll definitely meet her." Ryan crouched down to Emma's level. "But you know that no matter what, you're the most important person in my life, right? Nothing and no one will ever change that." Emma threw her arms around his neck. "I know, Daddy." "Now go have fun on your date." The restaurant was a small Italian place Ryan had discovered years ago, family-owned and unpretentious. Beatrice arrived right on time, wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater that made her eyes look even more striking. She looked younger without her business armor, more like someone he could actually imagine being with. "This is perfect," she said, looking around at the cozy interior with its checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. "Much better than some stuffy, expensive place." They ordered wine and pasta and fell into easy conversation, the professional boundaries dropping away now that they weren't at work. Beatrice told him about her college years, about the teacher who'd inspired her interest in sustainable technology. Ryan told her about growing up in a working-class family, about his father who'd worked construction and his mother who'd been a school secretary. They would have liked Emma, he said, a familiar ache in his chest. They both died before she was born, car accident. Sometimes I wish they could have met her, seen who I became. They'd be proud of you, Beatrice said softly. You're a good man, Ryan. That's evident in everything you do. I try. It's not always easy, especially on the days when the bills pile up and Emma needs new shoes and I'm trying to stretch every dollar. Is that still happening? I thought the salary at Evergreen was helping. It is, enormously. But there's still debt from the divorce, from the months I was barely scraping by. It'll take time to dig out of that hole. Ryan shook his head. Sorry, that's not exactly romantic dinner conversation. It's real conversation, which is what I want. Beatrice reached across the table and took his hand. Ryan, I need you to know something. I have money, a lot of it. That's not me bragging, just fact. And while I don't want that to define our relationship, I also don't want it to be a weird, unspoken thing between us. If you need help, I can't take money from you. I'm not offering to bankroll your life. But if there's an emergency, if Emma needs something, I want you to feel like you can tell me. Not because I think you can't handle things, but because people who care about each other help each other when they can. She squeezed his hand. Can we at least agree on that much? Ryan wanted to argue more, but the sincerity in her eyes stopped him. Okay. But I'm never just going to assume or ask. If I need help, I'll tell you, but I want to take care of my own responsibilities. Fair enough. Beatrice smiled. Now, can we talk about something Emma asked you to find out? She wants to know if I like dinosaurs. Ryan felt his face heat. She was very insistent that this was important information. Tell her I think dinosaurs are fascinating, and I've been to the Natural History Museum in New York specifically to see their T-Rex skeleton. Beatrice's expression softened. She sounds wonderful, Ryan. I'd love to meet her when the time is right. She's the best kid in the world, but I'm biased. Ryan hesitated. I told her about you, not everything, but that I was going on a date with someone kind and smart and funny. She said if things get serious, she gets to meet you and decide if she likes you. That sounds fair. Terrifying, but fair, Beatrice laughed. What if she doesn't like me? Then I'd have to seriously question her judgment, but we'd figure it out. Emma's opinion matters a lot to me, but she's also 6. She's not going to have veto power over my happiness. Ryan paused. But I should tell you, Rachel leaving really affected her. She doesn't talk about it much, but she's more cautious about new people in her life. If she meets you, she'll need time to warm up. I completely understand, and I promise I won't try to rush anything or be something I'm not. Kids are perceptive, they can tell when adults are being fake. They talked through 2 bottles of wine and dessert, and when they finally left the restaurant, Ryan walked Beatrice to her car, a sleek luxury vehicle that probably cost more than his annual salary. This was really nice, Beatrice said, leaning against the driver's door. Can we do it again? Definitely. Ryan stepped closer, drawn by the soft light in her eyes. Is it too soon to kiss you properly? I think we've been very patient, actually. Beatrice's smile was warm. I'd very much like you to kiss me, Ryan. He did, cupping her face gently and pressing his lips to hers. She tasted like the chocolate cake they'd shared, sweet and rich, and when she sighed against his mouth and her hands came up to grip his shirt, Ryan felt his entire world narrow to just this moment, this woman, this feeling. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Beatrice rested her forehead against his. Okay, that was worth waiting for, she murmured. Ryan laughed, low and pleased. Agreed. They saw each other twice more that week, grabbing coffee before work and having another dinner date. The office began to notice it would have been hard not to, given the way Ryan and Beatrice looked at each other during meetings, but no one said anything negative. Evergreen was small enough that it felt more like a family than a corporation. So you're dating the boss, Tom from IT said one afternoon, grinning at Ryan. Nice work. It's not like that, Ryan protested. Relax, man, everyone's happy for you. Beatrice has been different lately, lighter, smiling more. Whatever's going on, it's good for her, which means it's good for all of us. Tom clapped him on the shoulder. Just don't break her heart. She's a good person and she deserves someone who treats her right. I'm trying to be that person. From what I've seen, you already are. 3 weeks into their relationship, Ryan decided it was time. Emma had been asking more questions about his friend Beatrice, and he knew he couldn't keep them separate much longer. Besides, he wanted them to meet. Beatrice was becoming increasingly important to him, and Emma was his world. They needed to know each other. "How would you feel about meeting Emma this weekend?" he asked Beatrice one evening as they sat on her couch, her head resting on his shoulder. "Nothing intense, maybe just the park or ice cream." Beatrice sat up, looking nervous. "Really? Are you sure it's time?" "I'm sure. You're important to me and she's important to me, and I want my two favorite people to know each other." Ryan took her hand. "But I should warn you, she's going to test you. She'll ask questions, probably some awkward ones. 6-year-olds don't have filters." "I can handle questions." Beatrice took a deep breath. "Okay, yes, I'd love to meet Emma. What should I wear? How should I act? Should I bring her something?" Ryan found her nervousness endearing. "Wear whatever you'd normally wear on a Saturday. Act like yourself. And you don't need to bring anything, but if you want to, maybe something small. She's really into dinosaurs right now." "Dinosaurs, right. I can work with that." That Saturday, Ryan picked Beatrice up at her condo the first time he'd seen where she lived. It was beautiful, modern with huge windows, but also surprisingly cozy, full of plants and books and comfortable furniture. "You look perfect," he told her. She'd worn jeans and a casual shirt, her hair in a ponytail, looking more approachable than he'd ever seen her. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "What if she hates me?" "She won't hate you. But even if she's cautious at first, that's okay. Just be patient with her." Emma was waiting by the door when they got back to Ryan's small apartment, bouncing with barely contained energy. But when Beatrice walked in, Emma went suddenly shy, hiding half behind Ryan's leg. "Emma, this is Beatrice." "Beatrice, this is my daughter, Emma." "Hi, Emma," Beatrice said, crouching down to Emma's level without getting too close. "It's really nice to meet you. Your dad talks about you all the time." Emma peeked out from behind Ryan. "Does he?" "Constantly. He told me about the science museum and how much you love dinosaurs." "He said you're thinking about being a paleontologist." "Maybe, or an astronaut. I haven't decided yet." Emma stepped out a bit more. "Daddy says you're really smart." "I try to be, but you know who's really smart? Kids who ask good questions and want to learn about the world. That sounds like you." Emma considered this, then apparently made a decision. She walked over to Beatrice and studied her seriously. "Are you nice to my daddy?" "I try to be very nice to him, yes." "And you make him happy?" "I hope so. He makes me very happy." Emma nodded, satisfied with these answers. "Okay." "Do you want to see my dinosaur collection?" Beatrice's face lit up with genuine interest. "I'd love to." Ryan watched from the doorway as Emma dragged Beatrice to her room and proceeded to show her every single toy dinosaur, action figure, and fact sheet she owned. Beatrice listened attentively, asking questions and looking genuinely engaged, and Ryan felt his heart expand in his chest. They went to the park, where Emma ran around the playground while Ryan and Beatrice sat on a bench watching her. "She's amazing," Beatrice said. "You've done such a good job with her, Ryan. She makes it easy. Well, mostly easy. She has her moments like any kid." Ryan watched Emma navigate the monkey bars. "What do you think? Too much?" "Not at all. This is wonderful." Beatrice leaned into him slightly. "Thank you for sharing this part of your life with me. Thank you for wanting to be part of it." Later, over ice cream, Emma declared that Beatrice could come around more often if she wanted to. "That's high praise," Ryan told Beatrice quietly while Emma was distracted by her chocolate cone. "She doesn't warm up to people easily." "I like her a lot," Beatrice said. "She's smart and funny and so much like you." Over the next few months, Beatrice became a regular presence in their lives. She came to Emma's school play, sitting between Ryan and Caroline and applauding enthusiastically. She joined them for weekend outings, never trying to overstep, but genuinely enjoying spending time with Emma. She helped Emma with a science project about renewable energy, the two of them building a small solar panel display that earned Emma an A. For Emma's 7th birthday, Beatrice arranged for a private tour of a paleontology lab at the local university, where Emma got to see real fossils and meet actual paleontologists. Emma talked about it for weeks. "You didn't have to do that," Ryan said that night, after Emma was asleep. They were curled up on his couch, a frequent occurrence now, but thank you, she'll remember that forever. "I wanted to. She's special, Ryan. I love seeing her face light up when she learns something new." Beatrice paused. "I love her. Is it too soon to say that?" Ryan's throat tightened. "She loves you too. She told me the other day that she was glad I found you. God, that kid knows how to hit you right in the heart." Beatrice wiped at her eyes. "I never thought this would be my life. I always assumed I'd missed the window for family stuff, that I'd chosen career over everything else. But being with you too, it feels like maybe I didn't miss it after all." Ryan kissed her softly. "You didn't miss it. You're exactly where you're supposed to be." 6 months into their relationship, the board meeting Beatrice had been dreading finally happened. The same investors who'd wanted her to step back before were now threatening to pull their funding if she didn't agree to their terms. She came home to Ryan's apartment that evening. She had a key now and spent more nights there than at her own place, looking defeated. "They want me out," she said, dropping onto the couch. "Not out entirely, but out of operational control. They want to bring in a new CEO, someone who'll prioritize profit over mission. They're framing it as evolving with the market, but it's really about them wanting faster returns." Ryan sat beside her, pulling her close. "What are your options?" "I can fight it, but they control enough shares that they could make it happen anyway. I could buy them out, but that would drain my personal resources and leave the company vulnerable. Or I could agree and watch everything I built become just another soulless tech company." Beatrice's voice cracked. "I don't know what to do." "Yes, you do." Ryan tilted her chin up to look at him. "You've been preparing for this for months. You've been diversifying our investor base, bringing in people who actually care about the mission. And the Portland deal proved that your approach works. You have data now, not just passion. But is it enough? Let me look at the numbers again. There might be options you're not seeing." Ryan grabbed his laptop. "I'm not letting them take your company without a fight." They worked through the night, Ryan analyzing every possible financial scenario while Beatrice researched alternative funding sources. By dawn, they had a strategy. The next board meeting was tense, but Beatrice walked in prepared. She presented 3 different paths forward, each with detailed financial projections Ryan had helped her prepare. She showed how the company's sustainable approach had actually led to better long-term growth than competitors who'd prioritized short-term profits. She introduced 2 new major investors who'd agreed to buy out the problematic board members, people who believed in Evergreen's mission. "So you have a choice," Beatrice concluded, standing tall at the head of the conference table. "You can accept this buyout offer, which is generous, or you can stay on and support the direction this company was always meant to go. But I'm not stepping down, and I'm not compromising our values. That's not negotiable." There was a long silence, and then one by one, the resistant board members agreed to the buyout. Within a week, Evergreen had a new board that actually supported Beatrice's vision. "We did it," she said, spinning in Ryan's arms in her office after the final papers were signed. "We actually did it." "You did it, I just helped with the math." "No, we did it together. None of this would have been possible without you, Ryan. Your analysis, your strategy, your support." Beatrice cupped his face. "I love you. I should have said it before, but I'm saying it now. I love you so much." "I love you too," Ryan said, and kissed her deeply, not caring that they were in her office or that anyone could walk by. "I think I've loved you since the coffee incident. I just didn't know it yet." Beatrice laughed against his lips. "Best accident I ever had." That evening, Ryan brought Emma with him when he went to Beatrice's condo. He'd been thinking about this for weeks, and now seemed like the right time. "Emma and I have something to ask you," he said once they were all settled on her couch. Emma bounced excitedly, clearly in on whatever this was. "We want to know if you want to live with us." Beatrice looked shocked. You want me to move in? Well, technically, we'd all move somewhere new, Ryan explained. My apartment is too small and your place doesn't really fit all of us. But yeah, we want to live together if you want that too. No pressure, but Emma and I talked about it, and we both agree that we want you to be part of our everyday life, not just someone who visits. Really? Beatrice looked at Emma. You're okay with this? I want you to be there when I wake up, Emma said simply. And I want to show you my stuff more without having to wait for weekends. Plus, Daddy's happier when you're around. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. I would absolutely love to live with you both. Yes, definitely yes. Finding a house took 2 months, but they finally settled on a beautiful place with a big backyard, close to Emma's school. It was more than Ryan could have afforded on his own, but Beatrice insisted on splitting everything fairly based on their incomes. This is our home, she said firmly. Not mine or yours, but ours. That means we both contribute what we can. Moving day was chaotic. Boxes everywhere and Emma helping by unpacking her toys first and leaving them scattered through every room. But that night, after Emma was asleep in her new room that she decorated with dinosaur posters, Ryan and Beatrice stood in their shared bedroom, and just held each other. This is really happening, Beatrice murmured against his chest. We're really doing this. Having second thoughts? Not even a little bit. I just keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all a dream. She looked up at him. I never thought I'd have this. A partner, a family, a home that feels like more than just a place to sleep. You and Emma have given me everything I didn't know I was missing. You've given us everything too. Stability, security, but more than that, love and joy and adventure. Ryan kissed her forehead. I can't imagine my life without you now. A year later, Ryan woke up on a Saturday morning to find Emma jumping on the bed. Daddy, wake up. Beatrice made pancakes, and she says we're doing something special today, Ryan groaned, grabbing Emma and tickling her until she shrieked with laughter. Beatrice appeared in the doorway, spatula in hand and a smile on her face. Sorry, I tried to keep her quiet, but she's too excited. Beatrice came over and kissed him good morning. Happy anniversary. It had been exactly 2 years since the coffee incident that brought them together. They decided to celebrate the spill as their official anniversary, agreeing that the day they actually started dating was less significant than the day they first met. Happy anniversary, Ryan said, pulling her down for a longer kiss. What's this about something special? It's a surprise. Get dressed. We're leaving in an hour. The surprise turned out to be a hot air balloon ride, something Ryan had mentioned wanting to try years ago in passing. The 3 of them floated over the countryside. Emma pressed against the basket edge in wonder, and Ryan couldn't stop looking at Beatrice, at how the morning light caught in her hair and made her eyes shine. This is perfect, he said, wrapping an arm around her waist while keeping one hand on Emma's shoulder for safety. It gets better, Beatrice said quietly, and there was something in her tone that made Ryan's heart skip. What do you mean? Instead of answering, Beatrice crouched down to Emma's level. Emma, sweetie, remember what we talked about. Now's the time. Emma turned around, practically vibrating with excitement. Daddy, Beatrice and I have something to ask you. Ryan looked between them, confused. What's going on? Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. We want to know if you want to get married. Ryan's breath stopped. He looked at Beatrice, who was smiling nervously, and then at Emma, who was holding out the box with both hands. Emma helped me pick it out, Beatrice explained. This isn't about me rescuing you or any of that nonsense. This is about us choosing to be a family officially. I love you, Ryan. I love our life together, and I want to make it permanent. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Ryan realized he was crying, tears streaming down his face as he looked at these 2 people who'd become his entire world. Yes, God, yes, of course I'll marry you. Emma cheered, and Beatrice stood up, taking the ring from Emma and sliding it onto Ryan's finger. It fit perfectly, a simple platinum band that caught the sunlight. I can't believe you proposed to me, Ryan said, laughing and crying at the same time. I've been carrying a ring around for weeks, trying to figure out the perfect time to ask you. You have? Beatrice's eyes widened. I do. Ryan pulled a small box from his own pocket. I guess great minds think alike. He opened it to reveal a beautiful engagement ring, diamonds set in an intricate pattern that reminded him of the sustainable technology patterns Beatrice had shown him. Her hand flew to her mouth. Ryan, it's gorgeous. So is that a yes? He asked, smiling through his tears. Will you marry me, Beatrice? Yes, absolutely yes. She held out her hand, and Ryan slid the ring onto her finger, and then they were kissing while Emma made exaggerated, grossed-out sounds that couldn't quite hide her giggles. The balloon pilot, who'd been tactfully ignoring them while flying, called back, "Congratulations. That's the first double proposal I've ever seen at sunrise." "We're getting married," Emma announced to him proudly. "We're going to be a real family." "We already were a real family," Ryan said, pulling both Emma and Beatrice into his arms. "But now it's official." The wedding took place 6 months later in the backyard of their home, surrounded by friends, family, and evergreen employees. Caroline was maid of honor, giving a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Emma was the flower girl and took her responsibilities extremely seriously, making sure every petal was placed perfectly. Ryan stood at the altar, really just an arch decorated with flowers and green vines, and watched Beatrice walk toward him. She wore a simple white dress that flowed around her hair loose and a smile on her face that made her absolutely radiant. When she reached him, she whispered, "Hi." "Hi," he whispered back. "You look beautiful. You look pretty good yourself." The ceremony was short and sweet, focused on their commitment to each other and to Emma. They'd written their own vows, and when it was Ryan's turn, he looked at Beatrice and felt his heart overflow. 2 years ago, you spilled coffee on me, and I thought it was the worst luck ever. Turns out it was the best thing that could have happened to me. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I felt worthless. You loved me when I didn't think I deserved it. You've given Emma and me a home, a family, and a future I never dared to dream about. I promise to love you, support you, challenge you when you need it, and stand beside you through everything life throws at us. You're my partner, my love, and my best friend, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me." Beatrice was crying by the time he finished, and her voice shook when she started her own vows. "Ryan, you taught me what really matters. Not money or success, or proving myself to anyone else, but love, family, and staying true to what you believe in. You welcomed me into your life and Emma's life, and you've made me part of something bigger and more important than anything I ever built in business. You see me not the CEO, not the billionaire, just me, and you love that person. I promise to always see you too, to value you and Emma above everything else, and to build a life with you that's full of love, laughter, and purpose. You're my home, Ryan Davis, and I'm so grateful that you let me be yours." There wasn't a dry eye in the audience by the time they exchanged rings. Ryan got a matching band to his engagement ring, and when the officiant pronounced them married, everyone cheered. "Can I kiss my bride now?" Ryan asked, grinning. "Please do," Beatrice said, and he swept her into his arms and kissed her thoroughly while everyone applauded and Emma shouted, "That's my parents!" The reception was perfect, good food, better company, and dancing under string lights as the sun set. Ryan danced with Beatrice, with Emma, and with Caroline, who pulled him aside at one point and hugged him tight. "You did good, little brother," she said. "I'm so happy for you." "I can't believe this is my life," Ryan admitted. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up and find out it was all a dream." "It's real. You deserve this, Ryan. You deserve to be happy, to be loved, to have stability. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and just enjoy it." He took her advice to heart, sweeping Beatrice into a slow dance as the evening wound down. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, her head on his shoulder. "How grateful I am for your terrible spatial awareness and coffee-carrying skills." Beatrice laughed. "Best accident I ever had, remember?" "Best accident we ever had," Ryan corrected, and kissed his wife under the stars while their daughter danced with her aunt, and their friends celebrated around them. 2 years into their marriage, Beatrice came home from a doctor's appointment looking dazed. "Everything okay?" Ryan asked, immediately concerned. "I'm pregnant," she said, and then laughed at his shocked expression. "I know we weren't trying, but apparently it happened anyway, and I'm pregnant, Ryan. We're having a baby." Ryan was across the room in an instant, pulling her into his arms. "Really? We're having a baby. Really? Are you happy? Are you kidding? I'm thrilled." He pulled back to look at her face. "How are you feeling? When did you find out? When are you due?" "Slow down," Beatrice laughed. "I'm due in 6 months. I've been feeling off lately, and I finally went to get checked out." Surprise! Emma, now 9 years old and far more perceptive than Ryan sometimes gave her credit for, was ecstatic when they told her. "I'm going to be a big sister." She threw her arms around Beatrice. "Can I help take care of the baby? Can I teach them about dinosaurs?" "You can definitely help," Beatrice assured her. "And yes, you can teach them whatever you want." "This is the best day ever," Emma declared, and Ryan couldn't help but agree. The pregnancy was smooth, and Beatrice worked right up until her due date, refusing to slow down despite Ryan's constant worry. The baby, a boy they named Lucas, arrived on a snowy January morning after 12 hours of labor that had Ryan pacing the hospital room like a caged animal. "You're more stressed than I am," Beatrice panted between contractions, somehow managing to find his anxiety amusing even through the pain. "You're literally pushing a human being out of your body. I'm allowed to be stressed." When Lucas finally arrived, tiny and red-faced and absolutely perfect, Ryan held him and cried. Beatrice watched from the bed, exhausted but radiant, and Emma stood on tiptoe to see her new brother. "He's so small," Emma whispered, awed. "Was I ever that small?" "You were," Ryan confirmed. "And now look at you, a big sister." "I'm going to be the best big sister ever," Emma promised seriously. "I'll protect him and teach him stuff and make sure nobody's mean to him at school." Over the next year, their family settled into a new rhythm. Emma was indeed an excellent big sister, surprisingly gentle and patient with Lucas. Beatrice took maternity leave for the first time in her life, and Ryan watched her discover a different kind of fulfillment in those quiet moments of feeding and rocking and soothing their son. "I never thought I'd have this," she said one night, Lucas asleep on her chest while Ryan sat beside her. "A husband, children, the whole domestic dream. I thought that ship had sailed, that I'd chosen a different path." "Regrets?" Ryan asked. "Not a single one. This is everything I didn't know I needed." She looked at him, eyes soft with love. "Thank you for giving me this life, Ryan. Thank you for seeing me that day in the coffee shop. Thank you for taking a chance on a struggling single dad with a stained shirt and a stack of bills." "Best investment I ever made," Beatrice said, and Ryan had to agree. Evergreen continued to grow and thrive, winning awards for its sustainable practices and becoming a model for other companies. Ryan was promoted to CFO, a position he'd never imagined holding but had earned through his dedication and insight. He and Beatrice made a formidable team both at work and at home, balancing careers and family with a grace that sometimes surprised them both. Emma excelled in school, her interests shifting from dinosaurs to space and eventually settling on environmental science, inspired by watching Beatrice's work. She talked about attending college for sustainability studies, about making the world better the way her parents had taught her. Lucas grew into a happy, curious toddler who adored his big sister and thought his father hung the moon. He had Beatrice's eyes and Ryan's smile, and watching him discover the world made Ryan fall in love with life all over again. 5 years after their wedding, on another anniversary of the coffee spill, Ryan woke to find Beatrice already awake, watching him with a soft expression. "What?" he asked, smiling. "Just thinking about how far we've come. 7 years ago, I was a workaholic billionaire with no real personal life, and you were a struggling single dad wondering how you'd make ends meet. Now look at us." Ryan glanced around their bedroom, hearing Emma's music playing down the hall and Lucas's babbling from his room. "Now look at us," he echoed. "We have a home, a family, careers, we love each other. It's everything. It really is." Beatrice snuggled closer. "I love you, Ryan Davis." "I love you too, Beatrice Davis." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you for the best 7 years of my life." "The first of many," Beatrice promised, and Ryan knew she was right. Their story wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real, with all the complications and compromises that came with blending lives and raising children and building both a family and careers. There were hard days when work was stressful, and Lucas was teething, and Emma had friendship drama at school. There were moments of doubt and fear and frustration, but there was also more love than Ryan had ever thought possible. There were quiet mornings with coffee properly contained and conversation. There were chaotic family dinners with Emma talking a mile a minute and Lucas throwing food. There were late nights curled up together, exhausted but content. There were victories celebrated and struggles faced as a team. Ryan thought sometimes about the man he'd been that day in the coffee shop, worried and struggling and wondering if he'd ever find stability again. If he could go back and tell that man what was coming, the brilliant woman who'd crash into him, literally, the love that would grow between them, the family they'd build together, he never would have believed it. But here he was, living proof that sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best outcomes. That sometimes love finds you when you're not looking for it, and when it does, it transforms everything. Emma graduated high school with honors and a full scholarship to study environmental science. At her graduation party, she pulled Ryan and Beatrice aside and hugged them both tight. "Thank you," she said, voice thick with emotion, "for everything. For giving me a stable home, for showing me what real love looks like, for supporting all my dreams." "I know the early years were hard, Dad, before Beatrice came along, but you never let me feel that. You always made me feel loved and important and safe. And Beatrice, thank you for choosing us, for loving Dad and me and Lucas like you've always been part of our lives. I love you both so much." Ryan couldn't speak past the lump in his throat, so he just held his daughter, no longer a little girl but a young woman about to start her own journey, and felt grateful for every step that had led him here. Lucas was 8 now, smart and funny and surprisingly athletic. He played soccer and loved swimming and was already talking about being a marine biologist. He adored his older sister and thought his parents were superheroes, which never failed to make Ryan smile. Evergreen had expanded nationally, with offices in 5 cities and plans for international growth. Beatrice had stepped back slightly from day-to-day operations, hiring a COO she trusted and focusing more on strategic vision and advocacy work. She'd written a book about sustainable business practices that had become a bestseller, and she traveled occasionally for speaking engagements. Ryan went with her sometimes, the two of them stealing away for weekend trips while Caroline or Beatrice's parents watched the kids. They'd walk through new cities holding hands, talk about their dreams and plans, and fall more in love with each passing year. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows in the same backyard, this time with Lucas as ring bearer and Emma reading a poem she'd written about family. Their circle of friends and loved ones had grown over the years, and the celebration was bigger and louder and full of joy. 10 years, Beatrice said that night as they slow danced under the same string lights. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, and sometimes it feels like forever. The good kind of forever, Ryan said. The kind where you can't remember what life was like before. Exactly. She rested her head on his shoulder. "I've been thinking about something lately." "What's that?" "I want to start a foundation. Something focused on helping single parents, especially ones who are struggling financially but working hard to provide for their kids. Scholarships, childcare assistance, job training, emergency funds. All the things that would have made your life easier back then." Ryan pulled back to look at her face. "Really? I have the resources to make a real difference, and I want to use them for something meaningful." You've always said Emma was your motivation for everything, that being her dad was what kept you going. I want to help other parents in that situation, show them that their dedication and love matter more than their bank account balance. That's an incredible idea. Ryan felt his eyes sting with emotion. What would you call it? Beatrice smiled. I was thinking the Emma Foundation, if that's okay with you, named after the little girl who got the best father in the world, even when times were tough. Ryan couldn't help it. He started crying right there on the dance floor, holding his wife and thinking about how impossibly lucky he was. She'd be honored, he managed. We both would be. The Emma Foundation launched a year later, with Emma herself cutting the ribbon at the opening ceremony. It quickly became Beatrice's passion project, and she poured herself into making sure it actually helped families rather than just being another ineffective charity. She hired social workers who understood the reality of poverty, set up easy application processes, and made sure the assistance was dignified and empowering rather than demeaning. You're changing lives, Ryan told her after a particularly long day when she'd come home exhausted but glowing. These families, they're getting the help I wish I'd had, the help I would have been too proud to ask for but desperately needed. That's exactly why we're doing it this way, Beatrice said. Removing the shame, making it about supporting hard-working parents who just need a little help to get through tough times. Everyone deserves security. Everyone deserves to know they can provide for their children. Years passed in a beautiful blur of school events and soccer games and family vacations. Emma graduated college and started working in environmental policy, determined to make systemic change. Lucas entered high school and discovered a passion for marine biology, spending his summers interning at aquariums and research facilities. Ryan and Beatrice grew older together, finding new rhythms as the kids became more independent. They traveled more, took up new hobbies, and somehow fell more in love with each passing year. The physical attraction never faded, but it deepened into something richer, a comfort, a friendship, a partnership that made everything better. Evergreen was now one of the most successful sustainable tech companies in the country, proof that doing good and doing well weren't mutually exclusive. The Emma Foundation had helped thousands of families and inspired similar programs across the nation. Ryan and Beatrice had built something meaningful together, both professionally and personally. On the 15th anniversary of the coffee spill, they returned to the small cafe where it had all started. It had changed ownership twice and been renovated, but something about being there felt significant. Should I spill coffee on you for old time's sake? Beatrice asked, laughing as they sat at a table near where they'd first met. Please don't. I'm wearing my favorite shirt. Ryan reached across the table and took her hand. Can you believe it's been 15 years? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It feels like we've always been together, but also like time has flown by so fast. Beatrice squeezed his fingers. Any regrets? Not a single one. Best 15 years of my life. Mine too. She looked around the cafe, remembering. I was so stressed that day, so focused on the board meeting and the company problems, and then I crashed into you, literally, and everything changed. I was stressed too. Worried about the interview, about money, about being enough for Emma, I thought the coffee was a disaster. Ryan smiled. Never occurred to me it might be the beginning of something amazing. The universe works in mysterious ways, Beatrice said, or maybe it's just dumb luck. Either way, I'm grateful. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee carefully, with no spills and watching the world go by outside the window. What do you think happens next? Beatrice asked. Emma's launched. Lucas will be in college in a few years. It'll be just us again. I think we figure it out together, the way we've figured out everything else. Ryan lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. Maybe we travel more or start new projects or just enjoy the quiet. As long as we're together, I don't really care what we do. That's very romantic of you. I'm a romantic guy when it comes to you, Beatrice laughed, the same real, unguarded laugh that had captivated him 15 years ago. I love you, Ryan Davis. I love you too, Beatrice Davis. Here's to the next 15 years, and the 15 after that, and however many more we get. They raised their coffee cups in a toast, and if anyone had been watching, they would have seen two people absolutely in love, grateful for every moment that had brought them together. And if anyone had asked Ryan if he'd change anything about that day 15 years ago, when a stressed billionaire crashed into a worried single dad and spilled coffee all over his shirt, he would have said absolutely not. Because that moment, that seemingly disastrous accident, had given him everything that mattered: love, family, partnership, and a future brighter than anything he'd ever dared to dream. Sometimes the best things in life come from the worst moments. Sometimes a spilled coffee can change everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, love finds you exactly when and where you need it most.